From claiming that Maxie Hughes was robbed of a win, to the fans having mixed feelings over the match, here's what you need to know about Shakur Stevenson calling out George Kambosos Jr. Look, there's never a boring day in the boxing world. Shakur makes sure of it. And the latest stunt he pulled just proves my point. He called out Kambosos Jr.'s win against Hughes. That's right, Shakur's stirring up trouble, and he thought Maxie was robbed. Yep, I'm not making this up. He said it was a straight-up robbery because he thought Maxie boxed well and was the better fighter, for sure. Stevenson also pinned the blame for Kambosos Jr.'s win on the judges. He felt that they didn't pay enough attention. And if you ask him, those are the types of judges that are messing up the sport of boxing. Oh, and get this. When he was asked about ever fighting Kambosos, the guy didn't even entertain the idea because according to him, Kambosos isn't on his level. Ouch! I wouldn't want to be the lightweight champ in this scenario because that was one bad burn. But wait, the story doesn't end here. Kambosos spoke about the 21st win in his boxing career during a post-fight interview, but things took an unexpected turn. While he discussed the highs and lows of his career, Stevenson crashed the interview session. Awkward. And to make matters worse, Stevenson also gave an idea of what would happen if he and Kambosos faced each other in the ring. It doesn't take a genius to guess what he said, though. Because of course, Shakur talked about how he's gonna stop George and how if George gets in the ring with him, it would be bad. Oh, and to add the cherry on top, he also said George can't f with him. But here's the part that I didn't see coming. Shakur only wants to fight him as a last resort. Is he on the top of the boxers list? Not even close. In fact, I doubt he's even on the list. The boxer shared he wants to fight the best of the best. You know, the Lomachenkos, the Devin Haney's, Gervonta Davis of the world. The former WBO featherweight champ thinks these guys are more on his level, and those are the fights he's looking for. So, it's a win for Shakur if he gets to face them in the ring. The American boxer shared that if you see him fighting Kambosos, then you already know he's gonna stop him. Like, there's no questioning it at this point, you know? That's how he feels. But if Stevenson doesn't have any choice and George is the next step, then he'll beat him up too. No questions asked. Okay, but why is Shakur so riled up? And what happened in the fight against Kambosos and Hughes that the man's ready to risk it all? Don't worry, I know you've got questions. Well, I've got you covered. This is what went down in the ring during the big fight. Let me set the scene for you. It's July 22nd, 2023. The stakes are as high as they can be because Kambosos was finally back in the ring after his defeat to Haney in October 2022. This was one fight you did not want to skip because it started off with Hughes using his footwork and pulling off a nice jab. And if you want to know when he was giving the match his best, well, the best punch of the round happened when Kambosos rushed in, because that's when Hughes landed a solid left-hand shot. You can't go wrong with that, right? But don't worry, Kambosos held his ground and has some decent moments in the second round because he landed a few perfect right-hand shots. He used some solid footwork to set up his offense and landed his best punch, a solid uppercut, at the minute and 35-second mark in the third round. He was going strong all the way into the fifth round, where he connected a straight left onto Kambosos, and the end result was nasty because he cut open the guy's right eye. Ouch! Hughes got his fair share of damage though, and dealt with his own cuts when he clashed heads with George in the sixth round. Look, I'm gonna be honest, Kambosos had his moments, but it's obvious that in the second half of the fight, Hughes was in control. He continued to use his footwork, controlled his distance, and landed the straight left hand perfectly. But the perfect scores didn't pay off that well for Hughes because at the end of the contest, Kambosos got the win. And the judges' scores were also different from each other, with one draw and two decisions in George's favor. What did Kambosos think of his opponent, though? Well, he felt that Hughes was cagey, but does that change his mind about the win? Nope. If you ask the lightweight world champ, then he's going to tell you he was rightfully awarded the majority decision and that there was no title robbed after all. I guess Shakur didn't get the memo. And Hughes didn't either, but that's another story. Maxie believes he won the fight and he's got everyone on board. The crowd, fans on social media, and obviously the big guy, Stevenson himself. Oh, and while I'm on the topic, I think it's important that Shakur's words shouldn't be taken lightly. Butting heads with him isn't wise, which is why it's not going to be good if Kambosos' team even considers the idea of fighting Shakur. Like, that's a big fat no. And an example of what I'd call a bad business decision for sure. Just steer clear of the guy. He's obviously pissed, but he'll simmer down soon enough. And that'll be for the best, because if I'm being honest, George isn't ready to fight him. It's clear from his last 3 fights, he's not great at handling fighters who can box and control the distance. And well, that makes Stevenson his worst nightmare, because he's a master at using his skill set and controlling the distance. But Kambosos? Fans think he doesn't stand a chance. Just take a look at his 2 fights with Haney. It only took 24 rounds, and George was out. If he does decide to step inside the ring to face Shakur, then all I can say is good luck, because he's gonna need it. Oh, also, before I forget, here's a small nugget of info you might have missed out on when you first watched George's ESPN interview. The one that Stevenson crashed, that is. So, some internet netizens pointed out that the confrontation was staged, because both fighters were smiling during the interview, and it even looked like they were enjoying the moment. Whoa, hold on. Is this whole thing staged? Only time will tell. But if it's not, and the 2 boxers are serious about going into the squared circle, then I think their calendars are free for early 2024. I know for a fact fans are going to be glued to their seats if the fight does take place. And speaking of fans, how did they react to Shakur's comment about Hughes being robbed? Well, their reaction was a mixed bag. Some were in favor of Shakur, while others felt George did win fair and square. Oh, and there was also a conversation about how the judges were in on it. One fan shared Stevenson is definitely not on George's level because Kambosos' speed is unmatched for him, while another fan felt like Stevenson needs to tone it down and give the winner his moment. The fan said that he should learn how to behave from AJ, Usyk, and Bivol. There was one person who was on Shakur's side, though. They said Shakur's gonna wipe him off the canvas, and that the fear in George's eyes was obvious. Another person agreed and added that Kambosos shouldn't take on the fight. But the majority of the fans felt like the whole thing was rigged. One fan shared that Kambosos knew he lost that fight, while another felt that the fight with Hughes was entirely set up and scripted. Oh, and don't get me started on fans' feelings over the judge's decision. A fan shared that the cards were borderline blatant, but this next take on the fight really takes the cake. The fan explained that judges don't judge the fight in front of them, they're actually judging to get the next assignment. And they can't do that if they ruin the carefully crafted future plans of the major promoters, which, in this case, is a Kambo and Shakur fight. If you think of boxing judges with this context, then all the bad decisions make sense. So there you have it. From the fans having mixed feelings over the match to claiming that Maxie Hughes was robbed of a win, that's all for Shakur Stevenson calling out George Kambosos Jr.